Thank you for joining us for our second offering in our series of Holy Week devotionals. Our hope is that these devotionals will provide you with a bit of solace in this most peculiar of Holy Weeks. I have to start with a confession. Usually when we get to Holy Week, I am not short on words or reflections or inspiration, but this year the words are not flowing. At least not the words that are helpful. I can't make sense of everything that is happening. Normalcy is gone, and it seems as if anxiety hangs over me like a cloud. Over the past few weeks, I have found myself trying to make meaning in the midst of all of this. I've listened to others as they have tried to wade through these waters, but I keep coming up empty. And ministers love to make meaning, and truthfully, I feel somewhat useless when I have to confess that I have very little to offer about what all of this means. And it is very hard to make meaning when you barely know what day of the week it is, much less what liturgical season we are celebrating. I have felt somewhat adrift without my normal routines and markers of time. So today, on this Tuesday of Holy Week, I don't know what a global pandemic means for us as we journey with Jesus on his way to Jerusalem. But I do know what I have needed to find every day for the past few weeks, and that is peace. In my life, I have known the peace that surpasses understanding during difficult times. But this kind of peace has been elusive for me so far. It's been more like sand slipping through my fingers as I clenched my fist a little too tightly. Surely Jesus must have wanted to find peace too as he approached Jerusalem. We hear the agony in his voice in the garden as he pleads with God to let this cup pass from him. We hear it as he defends Mary's offering, an anointing that must have offered him some small measure of peace. And we hear it as he tries to prepare his disciples for what is to come, so that he does not have to walk this road alone. How do we find peace this Holy Week? As I have been asking God this question, the words of a Wendell Berry poem came to mind. The Peace of Wild Things, a title that is just as paradoxical as the peace of Holy Week or the peace of a pandemic. Berry's poem says, "When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world, and am free. I want to be as free of anxiety and as at peace as the wild things." When everything started to change a few weeks ago, it happened to coincide with the blooming of the cherry trees. Normally, this is my very favorite time of year. But this year, instead of allowing this explosion of beauty to give me peace, I found that I was annoyed. Didn't they know that the world was going crazy? I was too busy and too stressed to really sit back and enjoy them. Walking back from Sadie's one day, I think I even glowered at the ones next to the education building. The audacity to bloom right now. But spring has unashamedly continued. And slowly it is becoming the balm my soul needs. The eastern redbuds popping out, the dogwoods beginning to bloom, the buds forming on my rose bush, and the bird song that rises at all times of the day and night. Spring continues as it always has, and this is what is giving me peace this Holy Week. New life is springing up all around us, and it's not a paradox, it is a promise. Even though we are surrounded by upheaval, the women will find the tomb empty Sunday morning. The stone will be rolled away. Jesus will dine with his disciples on the other side of death. The peace that surpasses understanding is not out of reach in this season. Whether it's the wild things, or a beautiful piece of writing, or music that lifts your soul, the reminders of life are all around. And this is my prayer for each of us, that we find peace as we continue to walk with Jesus, not only through this Holy Week, but through this pandemic. Let us continue to support one another, love one another, and find grace for one another. Jesus will defeat death, walking out of that tomb to new life. If we walk with him, we will walk out of this tomb and find the peace of new life as well. My prayers for peace are with each of you today.